one of the only black guys that could, pass. I didn't realize what it meant to pass at Catch a Rising Star.
Right.
When it happened.
Right.
Years later, I was like, oh, shit, I'm in the fucking biggest comedy club
in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
In the world. You can safely say that, right?
Yeah.
One of them in
93, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know, and, and they got fucking Rodney's coming in, and Kinnison, and, so I had, I felt... Whatever. My chest
like you
was,
fucking,
like, motherfucker, I followed Kinnison.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Anyway, Martin, I normally didn't even watch opening guys. And I'm in backstage.
Is that a club?
Nah, it's at this place, the Airy Crown Theater in Chicago.
In Chicago, yeah.
And I hear, fucking, I think it's a fight or some shit. It's like, oh man, what's going on in the crowd? Like, fucking coming to the side of the stage, and people are fucking laughing harder than I've ever seen people laugh in my life. Like they're hurting themselves. Like,
yeah.
Like people don't remember how fucking crazy this Martin shit was.
He was a beast.
That motherfucker was a beast.
Yeah,
I mean, he can still bring it. But, I mean, you're talking...
No, he was a fucking monster.
Yeah, like Murphy. Like, like unbelievable. And then I had to go on after that. And, like, it's a bad set when you're still talking about the guy before you, like, 30 minutes in. Yeah, that Martin. It was funny. Like...
It's like Martin said. Think back to Martin.
Martin was talking about bitches earlier. Think about bitches.
You remember earlier when you were enjoying yourselves?
I had a tag for one of his jokes, and here that tag is.
It was just brutal, sweat, just fucking... Yeah, I was done.
And you realized, like, I got to step it up.
Not only did I had to step it up, I had missed...
Was it black people? It was black people were at the show,
It was black people at the show.
Yeah.
And
prior to that, it was mostly white people or mixed, right?
It was mostly white people or mixed. And
how did that happen? Just out of curiosity.
I was on SNL.
A random... I'm saying, how did that show... Why was that show so black?
You know what? Because Martin was bubbling. I wasn't paying attention. Martin's really funny in House Party 3. You know what I mean? Like, Martin's really funny on What's Happening Now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these little things that, And Martin's really funny on Star Search. Like, there's a bunch of shit Martin was really kind of funny on.
It was only on Saturdays, these shows that you're talking about. The Saturday afternoon black shows.
And, whatever circuit Martin was working, people fucking...
Knew him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
old word. That's word of mouth when it was truly word of mouth.
They still... If you bring it, you can still have word of mouth.
Yeah, but it's mostly on the internet. It used to literally be like standing in line type shit.
Hey, man. If you are really, really kill on a fucking... If you're a killer comedian at any club on a Thursday night and you have no reservations for the weekend, if you kill hard enough to get like a standing O on Thursday, you'll sell out most of Saturday by the next day. There's just not that many people that are killers.
Yeah, you're right.
I used to fucking...
It's like you have to see this
I used to get into town with, before I got really famous, and there'd be like no reservations or whatever the fuck. Oh, man, you're going to have to... And I would kill so fucking ridiculous on Thursday that I'd... By the... So you kill Thursday, you kill Friday first show. By the end of the first show, everything's... All Saturday, next Friday, all Saturday sold out, and they're asking you to stay.
Yeah,
if you bring it Sunday. Though. Yeah, we're gonna add a show on Sunday. If you can stay, I don't know what your schedule is.
Yeah.
But you gotta bring it.
I love that stand-up. No matter how big you get, it still comes down to like, you kill Thursday. It's the most handmade shit in the world.
It's the most handmade shit in the world. But and by the way, it works that way even on a larger scale. Even now. So,
like movie? You mean like...
movies are just
like
a whole
big theater tour kind of thing?
But so if I play right now, I'll hold... you'll hold a Universal Amphitheater for 5 nights.
Right.
You don't put 5 nights on sale.
Right.
You hold 5 nights, and you put 2 on sale.
Right.
And, if you really kill that first one... the box office will get so many calls that they'll go, we can add one. Like they know just by how many
by
calls.
like metrics and shit.
But if you're just got a fucking mediocre show, they're not getting no more calls.
Yeah.
Like Prince is the master of that shit. That motherfucker holds 30 dates.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not comedy, but
but it's the same.
Do
basic.
an amazing show.
Yeah, it's some
you
shit
can
like
keep adding shows.
You have to see it. It's like I say about models. You have to see this bitch. That's how fine she is. You gotta see this bitch. We're flying her,
Rihanna,
to different lights.
That doesn't work. Models and Prince.
Model. I'm telling you, models
Look,
are.
if you're fine enough on a Thursday, by the time Saturday rolls around,
she's fine on a Monday morning in New York. We're flying this bitch to St. Thomas to shoot her on Thursday. That's how fine she is.
Sometimes.
All right, so Mart, and then you're just like you got blown off.
I got blown off, and it's so weird because Martin like literally ushered in a new comedy, like
a new type of comedy.
No, I wouldn't even say a new type. He just, I guess a new type of comedy. Martin, you know, hey man, everything black in the last 15, 20 years is because of Martin Lawrence.
You mean within the sort of the Def Jam?
Like literally most of the comedians, all the UPN, all the WB.
Right, interesting.
All, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody hates Chris, whatever. All this shit has. You got to remember before.
From Def Jam and Martin. The show Martin.
Yeah,
and Def
Jam and Martin. You got to realize, too, it's not that there was no black shit before Martin. When Martin came on the air, I believe The Cosby Show and A Different World were still on.
Wow.
Okay? I know for a fact Different World was still on, but this was some other black shit.
Right.
Those are the real black people, like the real white people.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Did you ever have to make a decision to not? Did you want to be on Different World, or you just want to run?
I would have loved to have been on Different World. I think I read for the Dwayne Wade, Dwayne Kadeem's part, and the Cosby Show. I was up for Cockroach, and I didn't get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sandler got it.
I know, that's so.
Sandler was on the Cosby Show.
Got the Cosby Show, and I didn't. I lucked up.
Yeah. All right. So
you wouldn't even be here right now.
You had gotten on the Cosby Show,
I'd be at the Best Western writing.
Trying to figure out how to kill on the Thursday night.
You'd be writing a movie for Kevin Hart.
Yes, I'd be writing a movie for Kevin Hart right now, hoping I could get to him.
All right. So what did you decide based on that shellacking that Martin gave you?
I don't know if it was just that night. It was a long thing. It was not the shellacking. The Def Jam. It was literally like 3 weeks after he kicked my ass. The Def Jam premiered.
Got it. And you were vindicated. See,
like literally like 3 weeks later, it's like, oh shit. He's got a half-hour special.
Yep.
He's got an amazing half-hour special, by the way. And then the Def Jam premiered, and then there was all these new comedians. So I had all these gigs I used to have just because I was the only black guy were just done.
That's hilarious.
Like all these clubs, you know. Well, we got Bill Bellamy. Oh, we got Joe Torre. I remember it came down to there was a February. I had no gigs. It was fucking Black History.
Which that's
Black
the
History
ultimate
Month.
insult.
Used to be my you know.
Your bread and butter. You make it your whole year.
Yeah, please. It was I was like, so that shit happened.
Right.
Like I was just by default just, you know, corny, older. I don't even know if I was older because like Bernie Mac's older than me.
Yeah.
But I was like.
You had been around a long time. You were probably still under 30 though, right?
Yeah, I was just not cool.
Yeah.
I was, you know.
So what do you do?
Is that real, or was that in your mind?
I mean, part of it, you know, all this shit's perception.
I think it was real.
It's all.
I was in the clubs back then. It was like he was this dude who had been on SNL, and it was sort of like.
So in SNL, some people like CB4.
Yeah,
and I loved CB4.
Yeah,
PS.
It's kind of like you don't know. Like I think so. But it's like with showbiz, your shit's over every year and a half.
I was done. I was for all intents and purposes done.
So did you?
You're saying you felt like you had gone over the peak.
I mean, you know, one would assume I had gotten my shot.
Right.
I'd gotten some shots, you know, and I made whatever of it, and I was working clubs, and you know.
Right.
That was going to be my life.
And then what did you? So you were like, I got to write better jokes. I got to be better on stage. I got to be blacker.
Honestly, it was more of I kind of quit show business in a sense and just said, I'm just going to do stand up. I'm not reading for anything. I'm not, having meetings and shit.
Right.
Let me just do stand up. I bought a house.
Right.
Had a mortgage. It's like,
Oh, you were like settling down.
yeah, I was kind of like, fuck it. I was, my goal was to be George Wallace, really.
Right.
Like a hard-working comedian.
Yeah. Make $300,000 a year.
Want to be good enough and famous enough to sell out a club without doing radio. That was my goal.
Right.
Wallace. Wallace would come into town early and do extra radio and sell out everything, and people liked him. And he'd do occasional Tonight shows and stuff. That was my idea of being a big star. But that didn't entail reading for sitcoms and shit.
And you just went on the road and got fucking really good.
I kind of just got really good, but not, like we were talking earlier about hiking.
Right.
Not even thinking about it. Not like it was like this workout I got without really thinking about it.
Did you notice? You must have noticed like catching standing O's more often.
Yeah, I did kind of. The other key thing, I had Joyner as my opening act, which really relaxed me.
Go on.
He was having kind of.
Yeah, we've met him. We know.
He was having a rough time, not a super rough time, but he wasn't getting work like he used to.
Right.
And I could still do decent business in the club. But when you had a different opening act all the time, and you had an opener and a middle, you just never knew what you're gonna get.
Right.
Plus, and by the way, I was a little scared of Def Jam guys. I was like, it was all this fucking energy and.
Yeah.
I can admit it today. You'd come and be like some new kid. And you're like,
well, that's what we call it on the show. We call them stool fuckers.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
You never fuck the stool, and you still don't fuck the stool, but you're closer to fucking the stool
than you were
in 1990.
But there's an important distinction, too. The stool fucker is what happened because of Def Jam. It's not what happened during Def Jam. You know what I mean? Like, the original Def Jam was just, to me, like, hot.
There were some stool fuckers. Eddie Griffin's a stool fucker.
But you know what I mean, though? It's like, it's comic view.
I don't know. Well, I mean, put it this way. Some guys don't want to open for nobody. And they're like, fuck you. But pretty much, how dare that I'm going on before this motherfucker.
Right.
And Joyner would set it up. He actually took pride in like kind of setting it up. So I always went on stage a little more relaxed, and I could work on that more complicated bit.
Right.
I didn't have to go straight to pussy. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what Natasha asked me. She goes, "How do you close?" I go, "Just your best dick joke."
Yeah.
That's fucking pretty much the way you do it. It's like I was just looking at you. It's like politics, whatever, culture, sex.
Oh, that's your system?
Pretty much.
And that's why Eddie Murphy's so unbelievable, because he opens with the dirtiest shit.
And closes with a bit about his fucking family.
Closes with the family bit. Unbelievable shit in the world.
Yeah. No, you're right. I never thought about that. You're absolutely right.
Open with the nastiest shit.
You close Bring the Pain, though, with that good bit about texting, or about pagers and shit. I love you.
Pagers. God damn it.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah.
No, so you didn't close with dick jokes. So kudos to you.
No, some specials. The latter specials.
Where you had to. Yeah. Now, when you talk about complicated bits, did you find... How did you evolve? Like, did your bits get longer? The subjects were harder?
Your bits get longer because you're not... I also met my wife, so that was kind of cool. I was like in a relationship,
right?
So you're not that I didn't go to the club, but I wasn't going to the club as much. I wasn't thinking about getting off stage.
Right.
That's what a lot of guys' problems are. They're more excited for what's going to happen when they get off the stage.
That's interesting.
Than what's going to happen on stage, or what could happen on stage. Yeah. That's, you know what I mean? Like, magic could actually happen on stage. They're thinking about
there's pussy off stage.
Right.
Though.
They're thinking about the magic pussy off stage. But no, it's kind of the same pussy in Tennessee is the same pussy in Arkansas. But I was actually like into being on stage.
Right. Well, are you do you consider yourself a natural performer?
No. I've made myself into. It's a conscious effort.
How?
I mean, that was the beauty of the Def Jam. Everybody was an amazing performer.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Even guys with no jokes.
Yep.
Fucking
spinning, twirling, fucking the
they
stool.
sold those jokes. Yeah. And Def Jam, just watching it, made me into a better performer. I mean,
there were audience members that were better performer than you.
Yeah, the worst Def Comedy Jam is better than the best evening at the Improv.
Yeah.
And I'm talking even at the Improv with Seinfeld and Harold Leifer and Larry Miller.
Yeah, performance-wise, absolutely.
Like
energy-wise, that's the thing is, if you've never watched Def Comedy Jam, it was a fucking seismic shift where it was like, how did this even get on TV? It was the most energetic shit I've ever seen to this day.
And you're saying that it was Martin that broke that mold.
Martin, the Def Jam doesn't work as well. Martin was such an amazing host.
Yeah, he was so good.
You know, your comedians were up and down. You know, for every Steve Harvey, there was a Shucky Ducky. You know what I mean?
Oh, quack, quack?
Yeah, exactly.
You've been to his website recently?
I haven't been there in a while.
It's the best. As the cursor goes around, it just goes, Shucky Ducky, Shucky Ducky, Shucky Ducky, quack, quack.
For real?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
Hamburger.
DL. And,
Chris Tucker.
Right, for every Cedric, there was a hamburger. You know what I mean? Not, hey, hamburger's a good guy.
Hamburger's a good dude.
Hamburger's a good dude. But, you know what I mean? Chris Tucker was on. It was fucking ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah.
But Martin, no matter where they were, Martin was fucking great every time.
So did you do anything consciously to become a better performer, or was it just...
I just realized I had to perform. I wasn't thinking about it. I was all about jokes.
Right.
I was all about...
Writing. Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes back to, you know, wanting to be a writer when I was a kid. So I was all about jokes. So I was like, if you tell these jokes loud enough, that's good enough. Wrong.
Right. Yeah. And then you started stalking the stage more.
Stalking the stage more and learning. You got to learn your voice. You got to learn how to work that shit.
Right.
You know, a lot of guys don't, know how to take it down. I used to open up for a lot of groups. I opened up for Albie Shore, opened up for Terrence Trent D'Arby, opened up for Heavy D. And I remember when opening up for, I guess, Heavy D or Keith Sweat. So I would do or Albie Shore. Say we do Albie Shore dates all week. And then on the weekend, Albie Shore would have these Budweiser Superfest dates.
Right.
And I would just hang along. They would just let me hang out because they weren't paying me that much anyway.
Right.
And then I'd jump back on a tour on Monday. But I remember Luther Vandross, hanging out with Luther Vandross backstage. Luther Vandross was, the greatest fucking singer next to Sinatra to fucking ever live.
Right.
And Luther Vandross said one night, he said, anybody can make people scream. It's like, can you make them quiet?
Right.
It's like,
Right.
That's cool.
Now, do you find and that gets into the complication.
Yeah, so I was like, when you got a real good bits have quiet parts.
Right, totally.
It's easy to have a screaming, girls are crazy. But when you really get into your shit, when you really know your shit, you take it down. When Kinnison really was in his shit, he screamed a lot, but then he would start talking like this, and then she would come home, and I would, when you have those quiet moments in your bit. So
was there trial and error in that regard?
A lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error, but I was, I had a mortgage, so I used before I had a mortgage. When I had an apartment, I literally could do 1 gig a month, pay a weekend somewhere,
right,
and pretty much pay all my bills,
right.
And I would just do nothing all day. I was off SNL, do shit, watch porn, fucking do a set at night. Try to...
You had that red Corvette, right?
Had that red Corvette. Fucking chicks.
This sounds terrible, man. What a terrible life.
You fucked up, man.
A horrible life.
Good thing. You got married. You bought a house.
I remember seeing you wearing a Beverly Hills Cop 2 jacket and being like, fuck that. How do you even come close to getting a jacket like that? Remember?
Oh, my God. It was fucking... I had 2 lines in Beverly Hills Cop 2. It's crazy, man. It was enough to get you in a club.
You got 40 pounds of pussy for every line.
It was crazy. So many fucking girls. You can say hi to all of them on Facebook.
Oh, you like them? Like that?
I like that.
Families.
Happy birthday.
It goes a long way.
It goes a long way. That's what fucking Facebook's for. keeping in touch with people you don't really want to keep in touch with, kind of.
Okay, and then so you get better, trial and error.
I got better. I just did stand-up all the fucking time.
Right.
Will
you explain? Because I did 5 spots in New York on Friday night.
And
he said to me,
my counterpoint was, I have no desire to ever do. Well, it was 7 sets that you said.
This way.
Yeah,
and I would never.
Tell them about New York.
Okay, New York,
I know about New York. I just also know about my desires.
New York's amazing, but I mean, you can do 5 spots in a night. I went probably so from SNL to whatever, say a 4-year before, like a 3-4 year period of not going out on a Saturday at all. Like never seeing a movie, like literally getting on stage every like putting in the 10,000 hours, like fucking Gladwell says.
Yeah,
like really doing that shit.
Yeah,
like yeah.
Do you think a lot of
5 spots tonight?
Do you think that is one of your secrets? Is just like I'm going to outwork you.
I will outwork you.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the average HBO special, and some of them are done by my friends. The average HBO special, when you see it, that guy has probably done 40 shows.
Right.
Especially if it's new material.
Yeah.
40, 50 shows.
I walked in. The manager said, "Is that him?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "All right, you got 5 minutes." And I looked at Howard. And I was like, "Man, what the fuck do you want me to do?" And he said, "I don't care what you do, nigga. Say something. Anything that comes to mind." And I swear to you, the first thing that came out of my mouth, they died laughing. And I played at that club for 3 months straight. And it was a true story about my couch at home. It was a story. It wasn't even, I'm not even a storytelling comic. You know that. But it's the first thing that came out of my mouth. I told him my mom used to make us clean up the kitchen like all day Saturday and all day Sunday because we had such a roach problem, right? And if we just did that, we'd have no more roaches. So we did that. But when me and my sister came home from school to watch Speed Racer, we found out that the roaches were eating our couch. They just moved. And everybody just died laughing. So I stayed at that club. My rise is different. I stayed at that club for 3 months. Show promoters started noticing me. I started doing showcases, started meeting the Craig Frasers, Martins and all those people that were Garvins. I started meeting all those people, but I didn't play a club. I started doing concerts. The promoters came to see me and said, "There's, acts in town. You got the kind of act that you sing and stuff, so you can do those acts." I met Patti LaBelle, Luther Vandross, Evelyn Champagne King. Patti LaBelle took me on shows with her. Luther took me on tour with him way later. And that's how that thing started. I did the Apollo Theater in New York when it was a real show.
Showtime at the Apollo?
Yeah. I won everything.
Amateur night.
Right. I learned a lesson in one of the showcases in D.C. A friend of mine there was a big one where there were singers and comics, and I said, I'm going to sing something a cappella. And he said, "Don't do that, man. You're a unique comic." And I'm like, "No," because my aspiration was still, I'm a singer. And I bombed, didn't win the contest or nothing, so I went with comedy. And I came up to the Apollo, was down to the last person. He won. I lost, but I met Sinclair Jones. Sinclair Jones told me, this is going to go fast. Sinclair told me, "Hey, man, I'm an attorney, but you got everything there is you have everything you need to become a Hollywood star. If I take you to L.A. for a week, pay for the plane tickets, get us a place to stay, would you consider moving to L.A. and making me your manager?" And I'm like, "Shit, a trip to L.A.? Fine." When I hit the ground, couldn't get in the Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, none of those places. I went over to the Comedy Act Theater.
Comedy Act Theater was an urban comedy club, the only one in Los Angeles at the time.
Now, during the year I came out here was 87. The Lakers were winning championships, and the Raiders were actually won 2 Super Bowls. So if you go to this club, all the Raiders all the Lakers, every hot chick you ever want to see, but most importantly, Robert Townsend, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Paul Mooney. I hadn't met these guys. Eddie Murphy, you know I ain't met him. Eddie Murphy and a guy, really talented comedian named Robin Harris, who hosted it. Every black comic that you know, who is anything now, was there. It was the highest level that you can go. It started the whole black comedy movement, period. I walked in that club as a total rookie, and everybody's there. Name them, Mark Curry. It's the place where you get discovered. And we jockeyed a couple of times trying to get in there. And they finally said, yes, you can do a set. And Keenan was there. Damon was there. And these are, you got to know, they didn't have movies yet. Damon was there. Keenan was there. Robert Townsend was there. Okay? And that's big. That's big because they were doing things. They were like the big shots. And I went on stage and I brought that motherfucking house down. They'd never seen anything like me because I sang and I did comedy. I did impressions. Like I was like everybody else knew karate and I knew kung fu. You know, and I didn't know any better. I was like really raw, you know. It was all talent. And so I became a regular at this club, which enabled me time in LA to start to go to the Comedy Store. And it built from there. But Robert Townsend remembered me, was kicking ass so good that he put me on something called Partners in Crime, which is the first sketch movement leading up to Dave Chappelle or In Living Color or any of that stuff. And him and Keenan Ivory Wayans were partners. He put me on that show. It was my first TV. I'm the first. I know that I am the first African American comedian that got all his breaks from African American men. The two people that broke me was a guy named Chris Sarpis and an agent named Kerry Woods at William Morris, and they took a liking to me, and they thought they knew I was going to be the next guy. And Kerry Woods only had a couple of clients. He had Winona Ryder, he had Uma Thurman, he had Andrew Dice Clay, Matt Dillon, and Gilbert Gottfried. That's all he had, and he concentrated on me 100%. Okay, I did Partners in Crime. Arsenio put me on his show. That was my stand-up debut on national TV. Who is this kid? I have the worst sweater you ever want to see. There was all these deals brewing. You're the hot guy. Somebody wants to do holding deals with you, and all of this stuff. I was written into Murphy Brown. Disney had a deal for me, and Eddie Murphy had a deal for a pilot where I played his little brother in Coming to America. Right? I picked that. It bombed. It was the writer was like from Different Strokes or something. You know, I never knew that could make a difference in the show, but it can. That's over. And I'm saying I'm going back to the clubs because I'm not going through this anymore, right? And I'm in the main room, kind of.
The main room at the Comedy Store is where the big acts play.
Right. Mitzi let me kill the belly room. She let me kill the OR.
The belly room was the smaller room. It holds about 80 people. The original room, or it's called the OR, is the room as you walk in the main entrance. It's a very dark room and holds about 150, maybe 200 people.
In Vietnam, they call them grunts.
And the main room holds 400 people.
Right. And you'd see Roseanne Barr, Seinfeld, Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey.
And Louis Anderson used to close all the shows after Jim Carrey.
Kill. Sam Kinison was, you know. So I'm on the fringe of becoming this young, really young, hot comedian. But the main room is still the thing, you know? And I left the whole TV development world, you know, and went back to the clubs. So I get a call from the Comedy Store. He goes, Mitzi says that you got the main room. You don't know what that means, bro. You got the main room. Friday and Saturday night, and you are with Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. Either you go on after Eddie and before Richard, or you go on before Richard and after Eddie for 4 shows. And we were like, holy smokes. I was ready to go home. I was catching three buses a day working at Solly's Deli, you know? So this is it, because in the main room, when Eddie's there and Finest Henderson's there, who's an incredible talent, or Charlie Fleischer's there's some brilliant comics.
Charlie Fleischer's the voice of Roger Rabbit and a very talented comedian.
He's one of the most extreme, unique.
And Finest Henderson was the first great-looking
guy that did songs, but he was funny too, and all the chicks show up that night. So the main room is hot, you know? So she put me on the hottest Friday night show. And I didn't blink an eye. From going to the Laugh Factory, from going to the Ice House, from trying to get in the belly room, from trying to do gigs. I did a gig on a diving board in an empty pool in the hood with one of those school stereo systems, you know, where the speakers are attached, and didn't even get paid. So, you know, this main room's a big deal. I do that show that night, and I'm at my peak. It's like I prepared for this the whole time. So we're in the back, me and Sinclair. You know, in the back there's the big room with the piano, and then there's the little hovels where the lesser comics kind of hang out.
Yes, there's these little dressing room cubicles, and then there's the main dressing room with this piano coffee table where comics used to do coke off of it.
Yeah, chicks, you know, the door's closed. You're not allowed back there. Unbelievable women going back there. So we're standing in this little hovel, you know, after killing 2 days at the Comedy Store. I have to stand up to show you this because this is just how it looked. So we're sitting in the hovel trying to figure out what's next. Is Mitzi, you know, that was really cool. What are we going to do next, you know? And Richard comes from the room back here.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah, and I don't see him. So we're standing in the hovel, and he walks, and he goes, "You's a funny motherfucker." And he walked back into the room. And me and Sinclair were like, yes, oh my God, I met Richard. I called my mom. She was like, I told you you shouldn't leave. I told you you should stay. I told you you should stay. And from that point on was when stuff pretty much started happening, because I became so hot in that room that it didn't matter if the studios were coming for me or anything. It just seems like things were going my way. Now, Keenan approached me from In Living Color, and by now, you know, him and Robert Townsend are becoming movie stars on another level, because there hasn't been any black. You think about black comedies now, you go, okay, you know, the best you can do for black comedies was back. The films that we know was Mother Jugs and Speed, you know, you know what I mean, or Across 110th Street.
But the famous story with Robert Townsend, he used all of his credit cards to make Hollywood Shuffle.
Right, and his one sheet and Spike Lee's one sheet for She's Gotta Have It were the only one sheets that I saw ever with young black people on it. So they started that whole movement. Hollywood Shuffle came out, which was huge for us, you know. And I had met Keenan at the I'ma Get You Sucker premiere, which blew us away because you were never seeing anything like this. So Keenan comes to me for In Living Color. You know, there's a show coming up. Da-da-da-da-da. Now, you got to understand, I'm back in stand-up. When you say you're back at a stand-up, when you're good, this is subjective. When you're good, you want to stay where you're best. It's a little bit awkward stepping out and people are going, I might put you in the movie, or we might do this, or we might do that, or whatever. Because of that rise, Mitzi took me, Chris Rock, Pauly Shore, Tamayo Otsuki.
Famous Japanese comedian.
Tamayo Otsuki. Headlined Angel Salazar. Took Mamie Ali. And put us in Vegas at her Vegas club and in La Jolla. And she called us the new faces of comedy. So we had kind of a platform, you know. So when Keenan came along, was going, I got a show for you. I'm going like, I don't think so. You know, I'm good.
The power of no.
The power of no, my dumb ass. So Michael Gruber, who was my agent.
Michael Gruber was one of the only agents at that time and in history who would represent tremendous stand-up comedians who became actors, but he also represented huge movie stars like George Clooney as well.
Built George Clooney from a sitcom bit actor that was getting old into a huge star. Took Queen Latifah, made her a television star, made her a movie star. Took Martin, made him a TV star and a movie star. Took Ice Cube, he just understood. You know what I mean? I didn't like him because he was doing all that for them and not me. But he tells me something. He goes, look, you can pass if you want to pass. Okay? Everybody's being asked to do this show. All your contemporaries, Jim Carrey, everybody who's funny. Go audition, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. You don't want to leave it on the table. You're talented. If you don't get it, you can live with that, right?
One of my philosophies always is just to go in and give everything you have. And when you get the gig, then you can pass if you want to pass.
Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. You know, this is after countless auditions that didn't work out. You know, it's a hurting thing. I was up for A Different World, which is the biggest thing you can have on NBC. Carsey Warner, Bill Cosby was down to the last guy, didn't get it. So I'm like, I'm done with this. So I go in to Tamara Rawit, who is the producer, and Keenan Ivory Wayans, and I sit down on the couch, and I had never done improv. I go in to the audition, and I'm not really familiar with sketch, but sketch is in me. Like, I don't have the skill, but I got the natural stuff for it. So I go into the office and sit down on the couch. They're sitting there facing me, and they go, okay, now you're a Puerto Rican cab driver, and somebody set the seat on fire in the back seat. Huh. You know, now a fat lady's in the elevator with you, and she just farted. You know, they set me up all these things, and I was kind of like not really knowing what I was doing, you know? So I left there going, I don't got this damn thing. How am I going to do this damn thing? But there's a stand-up audition at the Laugh Factory. I can do this. I go down there. There's 30 comedians. And everybody who you know was there. I showed up and read the names, and I was last. And that's last with Martin. Name them. Name all the black comics you know now. So, you know, comedy is a technique. Comedy is it's a skill, and you assess the situation and determine what it is you need to do to be successful in that situation. The way I was going to be successful in that situation was to not watch anybody, because people can be I'll put this mildly, absorbent of your material. So you may see your show, all you've been doing for the last couple, you'll see remnants of it. So don't watch. So I went outside on Sunset Boulevard, right there around the corner, and me and my coach, it was like Ollie and that guy, you know, let's go, Jim.
Angelo Dundee.
Yes. I walked and paced back and forth on that corner until they called my name.
How many people were left in the crowd?
It was packed because it was sexy. It was in living color audition, just like their dance. Keenan is a genius in creating energy and buzzes around his projects. Okay, everybody's there. It was fair. Everybody did 3 minutes. You know, some went over. You know how that goes. So I go on last. I've always been really creative. Now, someone ran outside and said, you know, God bless him, you know, Ricky Harris just did this that you do, that you do, that you do, and that you do. And there were pretty good bits that I do, you know. And so I said, okay, you know, let me just, you know, take a couple of deep breaths, do what I do best, and see what happens. because of watching Charlie Fleischer, okay, and watching Carlin. You know, watching the guys that can kind of make things happen. John Campanera. You know, there's another one, Jackson Purdue. Watching Jim Carrey. You know, watching them on their feet. Another one was Steve Odekirk. Watching him. Watching Roseanne go from the hip. Once she got rolling, you can hang it up. She can go from the hip. Or Ronaldo Ray, or any of these guys that were really... Paul Mooney.
Paul Mooney used to write for Richard Pryor.
Watching these guys on any given... Dom Herrera. Watching them. All the years that I was going down to the Comedy Store, you know, I started working on that muscle. That muscle to spin gold out of straw. And I just went up there with an open mind and said, you know what's going on in this world. You know what's happening. Try to see if you can come up with something that's going to be now that you can do. So I got up there, Barry, and I did my stuff, my killers. I could do Spanish, you know, I do singers, this, that, and the other thing. But RoboCop was out at the time. And Mike Tyson was really huge with Robin Givens at the time. So my last bit, Barry, was Robin Givens as RoboCop against Mike Tyson. And I can't tell you how the bit went, but I got a standing ovation. And Keenan came to me that night and said, you got the show. I didn't even know what the show was. We waited 6 months after we did the pilot. This goes to show you what we get in this town. In the pilot, I had very small parts, okay, in the filming of the damn thing. And then I did a really big Sammy number, a Sammy Davis Jr. number, which would have put me as one of the key guys, but they pulled it because Sammy was sick. I did Sammy as Mandela, big Broadway thing with Sammy as Mandela, man. And it was brilliant in total Sammy, you know. And Sammy's on Broadway. Sammy as Mandela, you know. Whether I'm white, whether I'm wrong, no cat's gonna stop this ebony star from singing my song. I gotta be free. Or Mr. Steve Biko, march, you know. Who can take apartheid, turn it inside out, show these Afrikaners what this freedom gig's about? The Mandy Man can, but they threw me in the can and threw the key away. Sammy's brilliant, all this stuff. It didn't make it to the pilot. So during the shooting of the pilot, we shoot sketches in front of live audiences, and none of mine were there. So Keenan goes, why don't you warm up the audience, you know? I warmed up for everything in the world to make a living. $30 a gig, $25 to warm up, you know. The price is right, you know. And that night, while I'm doing it, I cut my shin on a light. So my shin is bleeding. I'm not feeling like I'm on this show. You know, I'm like, what the hell happened? I wait. All of us wait for 6 months to even get the show picked up. You know, Barry Dillard got smart because Keenan leaked the tape to other networks when they said no, and then him and Lucy Salhini looked like geniuses, and the star was born.